This is the day you've been waiting for. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and you know just what you want to do.
All you want to do is ride around Saturday.
Now, if you and I were to sit down over a cup of coffee or a bottle of beer or something, I would be more than happy to share my thoughts on a wide variety of subjects. I am rather opinionated. Hi, everybody. Rick Lamb here for The Horse Show. Generally speaking, on TV and radio, I do not get into controversial subjects. I don't take a particular stand. I do a little bit more of that in my writing because I can finesse the words and be sure that I'm not misunderstood. The big exception for me is the soaring of the Tennessee walking horse. I find this an abhorrent practice. It's grotesque. It's unforgivable. And I can't even imagine why somebody would do it or somebody would sit in the stands and cheer horses that were being shown doing what they call the big lick. Very, very briefly, the Tennessee walking horse is a wonderful American breed of horse with a natural, easy gait. Beautiful to watch, smooth to ride, but certain lines of them have kind of an exaggerated action in the front. They lift their front legs a little bit higher. For the show ring, things that are different and exaggerated tend to be taken to the extreme. And that is how the Big Lick shows came about and the practice of soaring. Soaring means the application of caustic chemicals that burn the horse's skin around the coronary band of his feet. Tacks and ball bearings and things put on the bottom of his foot, chains draped around his coronary band, all of that designed to make it painful for the horse to put his foot on the ground. Let me say that again. They are deliberately causing the horse pain. Why do they do this? Because it causes him to jerk his feet back up in the air, the front feet. That's called the big leg. My guest today is a small, I wouldn't say meek, but kind of soft-voiced, unassuming woman who got into Tennessee walking horses as a complete novice and was absolutely appalled at what she saw. And she since wrote a book about it. It's her contribution to ending this absolutely unforgivable practice. Her name is Rose Miller, and she's here today. I'm Rick Lamb. This is The Horse Show, and we'll be back. Stay with us.
My name's Terry Poston. I've worked at Keystone for 33 years, worked here all my life, earned a good living. If we invest in America, then I keep working. It's good for our economy. It's good for everybody. I see red brand tags that I put on fence when I started 33 years ago, still hanging on fences. I like to be able to say, hey, I come from the plant where I work.
We know what's in your fence, and we've got the steel to prove it.
Horses need grain.
Not true. Research has shown that equine grain-associated disorders can be a threat to domestic horses. That's why Glow for Life feeds from ADM Alliance Nutrition go against the grain with premium low-starch, high-fat, high-fiber formulations to feed horses the way they're meant to eat, for life. For a limited time, get a free customized feeding plan for your horse at growstrong.com. That's GROstrong.com.
That's music to my ears. Hi, I'm Pat Pirelli.
And I'm Linda Pirelli. If you love everything about horses, the way they look, the way they sound, even the way they smell, well, you're among friends at RFD-TV.
RFD-TV has the most horse programs of any network on television, every day, all year long.
Take Pirelli Natural Horsemanship, for example. Each week you'll learn how you and your horse can become recreation for each other, how training can be shaped to the personality or horsenality of your horse,
and how you can reach your horsemanship goals.
RFD-TV brings you family-friendly programming that educates, entertains, and inspires. It's TV we can all be proud of.
And it's available on satellite and cable systems throughout the country. To learn more, visit rfdtv.com.
Or call 615-227-9292.
RFD-TV and Pirelli Natural Horsemanship.
We're teaming up to make life better for you and your horse.
Jeffers is the best equine catalog with more than 25,000 items, same-day free shipping, and the lowest prices guaranteed. Don't forget your fall bot and tapeworm control. Stock up now with Equimax, the only dewormer FDA approved for all horses, including pregnant mares and foals 1 month and older. Buy 4 Equimax right now and get one free, only at Jeffers Equine. Call 1-800-JEFFERS or visit jeffersequine.com. Jeffers Equine, earning your trust right here in America since 1975. For the past 11 years, I have been on an incredible journey. I have learned so much about horses, and I'd like to share that with you. I've written a new book called Human to Horseman, A Journey of Discovery, Growth, and Celebration. Now, in this book, I share my insights, the experiences I've had, the teachers that I've learned from. It's a great way to get started with natural horsemanship. $24.95 in hardcover, and I'll be happy to sign it for you. Human to Horseman. Order it at thehorseshow.com or by calling 877-THE-HORSE.
And now, back to the Horse Show with Rick Lamb.
Welcome back, everybody. Coming to you from the center of beautiful and sometimes quite hot Arizona in the summertime, although we are north of Prescott, and the weather up here has been just beautiful for the last few days. I don't know why you need a weather report, but we do get around quite a bit with this show and see a lot of different kinds of weather. We're on a private ranch here called the Whoop Whoop Ranch, and I'm meeting a new friend of mine, Rose Miller. Rose, nice to see you again.
Yes, thank you.
We were like ships passing in the night, I think, at a party up here one time.
Right.
We came to know the good folks of Long Meadow Ranch, which is a wonderful equestrian community up here. Many years ago, we bought some land, and then we had an opportunity to sell it, and we did, and then it came back into our lives in the form of friends that we've now made up here, and we come up as often as we can. So Rose is not only a resident of this area and quite a horsewoman herself and mule woman, as we will find out, but she is an author, and she's written a couple books we're going to talk about today. Number 1 is The Horse That Wouldn't Trot, and number 2 is Mules, Mules, and More Mules. Rose, let's just kind of go back to the beginning. How'd you get interested in equines?
Well, I always loved horses. I got my first one when I was 15, and we lived in Pennsylvania. He was a draft horse. Of course, my envision was a Walter Farley Black Stallion type horse.
Yeah.
I was 15. And Dad said no, and the neighbor had this nice, gentle draft horse, so we got him. At first, I was disappointed, and later I realized, much later, like my age, he was the perfect horse for a 15-year-old girl.
How old was he?
That was indefinite. The person that sold him said he was 10. Everybody
not
says
a kid,
they're
though.
10.
I mean, not a young one.
No, but later when we had a chance to have the vet out and look at him, he said, "Oh boy, this horse is seeing 10 years old a long time ago." So Smokey was his name, and he was very gentle. And then my sister got a pony to go along with him, so we were the real Mutt and Jeff, this huge draft horse and this pony. And we lived in Pennsylvania in Tioga County by the National Forest. So we had lots of logging trails to traipse on.
Wow.
Which we did all by ourselves, a 15-year-old me and my 5-year younger sister.
That sounds awesome, and it's sad
and
to me that
dangerous.
kids don't get to do that anymore.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, life's full of dangers.
Yeah,
we know that.
yeah.
But,
oh, dear.
But
anyway,
that was another time.
That was the beginning. And then I got married and had to give up my horses, and eventually we ended up, because of our 10-year-old daughter, thought she had to have a horse.
Yeah.
We ended up with horses again, and eventually we moved to a larger area in Indiana. We've moved to Indiana.
So you're just making your way across the country.
Right. And so we started with a few horses on a 50-acre farm. They were part Arabians, because I had this dream I wanted to raise horses. And I
Raise or race?
Raise.
Okay.
Yes, babies.
Okay.
And I couldn't afford the purebred Arabians, so started with the half-breds and so forth. And so raised a few of them, and I wanted to train them. And because I had done so well with Smokey, he was very old and gentle, I thought I was a horse trainer.
Now, you were an adult at this time.
I was an adult.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I had a husband and 4 children by now. We're on the horse farm. This is roughly 1973.
Okay.
So I was riding the Arabians. My husband's a chiropractor. This is very important to note.
God.
And I'm riding these Arabians with their bouncy trots, and pretty soon I can hardly walk.
Yeah.
And so he said, "Honey, I think you need to look into a different breed."
Now, was he aware that there were other breeds had different kinds of gaits?
Strangely, yes, because he had a patient who trained and also bred Tennessee Walkers right in the heart of Elkhart, Indiana. The city kind of enveloped him, so he had this small little stable in the middle of town, and he would come to Hal, my husband, for chiropractic treatments, and so of course everybody talks. So Hal said, "You better go check this out," which I did. And that was the beginning of my love affair with Tennessee Walkers, because I was able to get some good ones to begin with, which I write about in my book. Old Missy was older. She had one eye and an indescribable gait. It wasn't proper, but it was very smooth. So we started breeding her to this gentleman's stallion. And then that's when I got into trouble, because his stallion was a show stallion. And that was when I started way back researching and realizing that not all Tennessee Walkers are the same. Their genetics are not the same. The show horses are bred to pace, and the regular old-time walkers were bred to walk. And so I started getting pacey young stock that I didn't know what to do with. Can't ride a pace. It's just as bad or worse than a trot.
Let me just interject so anybody that's not familiar with the gaits will understand. We've talked about trot and we've talked about pace and we've talked about easy gaits. Trots and paces are pure two-beat gaits where, in the case of a trot, diagonally opposed pairs of legs are synchronized. Pace is also pure two-beat, but it's laterally paired legs are synchronized. So trying to ride a trot, you're kind of bouncing up and down, but trying to ride a pace, you're being thrown back and forth, back and forth. So
perfect, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so actually a gaited horse, the Tennessee Walker, is a combination of both if you do it right. And unfortunately, the young horses that I was raising were just more pacing, and then the trainer said, "Yeah, well, then you gotta make them pace, and then you put chains on their front feet, and then you teach them to square up, and then they walk." Well, that was foreign to me, and I didn't want to do it, and I almost got out of the business before I even got started, because of, they just wouldn't walk. Nobody wanted to buy them, and I didn't want to ride them. So I went to the area of Detroit with my husband, Hal. He was going to a seminar, and there was a Tennessee walking horse show going on at the same moment. So I went, it was at Fairgrounds actually. So I went there, and I met a lady, Carol Branham, and she said, "You just have the wrong kind of horse." She said, "You need to breed your mares to my stallion," which of course, it could be a business ploy, but she said, "I'll come get your mares, and I will, I'll do this for you," and she did, and she saved my butt.
So her stallion was of a line that was more towards that natural running walk as opposed to a pace.
Exactly.
Interesting. All the time I've talked to people about Tennessee walking horses, I've never heard that distinction made. So thank you. I learned something every day. When you saw that show, we know that there's some strange things going on in the world of Tennessee walking horse shows. What was the show like that you saw?
Well, this was way back in the early 80s, and the big lick courses were very sore and very prevalent, and it was really hard to find classes for pleasure horses. They hadn't really caught on then.
So you saw the big lick in action there, huh?
Right. And I didn't pay too much attention to it because I'd seen it before. I just thought it was silly, and it had nothing to do with me, and I just ignored it.
Describe, so somebody knows what we're talking about here, if they've never heard of the big lick, explain what that looks like.
The horses are beautiful. They're refined. They're beautifully bred. The Tennessee Walker is just a gorgeous horse. Going back genetically to the Morgan, the Arab, the Thoroughbred, they're a beautiful horse.
My guest is Rose Miller, author of The Horse That Wouldn't Trot. When we return, get yourself ready, folks. She's going to explain what soaring is all about. This is The Horse Show. I'm Rick Lamb, and we will be back. Fact of the matter is, nailed-on metal horseshoes are a tradition, and a lot of horses simply don't need them. Hey everybody, Rick Lamb here. Here's what I suggest. If you like the idea of barefooting your horse, go ahead and try it. But also do this. Get yourself some good all-purpose hoof boots to protect your horse's bare feet when you ride. I recommend the Simple Boot from Cavallo. Simple boots are exactly what the name implies. They're uncomplicated, easy to use, lightweight, durable. When you put them on, they stay on. With Simple Boots on your horse, you can walk, trot, canter, jump, go through water, go through mud. Whatever you're doing, the Simple Boot stays on and your horse stays comfortable. Remember, there are different stresses on your horse's bare feet when you ride him. Hoof boots are an essential part of the barefooting protocol. See the Cavallo Simple Boot in action and learn how to choose the right size at simpleboot.com. You'll also see the 5 very attractive colors available, starting at just $99.95 with free shipping. The Simple Boot from Cavallo, simpleboot.com. Hey everybody, Rick Lamb here. For me, Travel in Corrals makes the best portable corral system on the market, and here's why. First, the panels are easy to handle. They're 7 feet long and just 15 pounds. Anyone can set up a Travel in Corral. 6 panels make a 13-foot round pin, 8 panels make an 18-foot round pin. Second reason I'm crazy about Travel in Corrals is how these metal panels are made. They're notched and welded, and they hook together with a 4-foot steel rod. They're horse safe, thoroughly tested, and they come with a lifetime guarantee for the original owner. But hey, don't take my word for it. See for yourself. Watch an introductory video at travelincorrals.com. That's travel, the letter N, corrals.com. You'll get the backstory on the horse people behind these highly practical portable corral panels. And if you mention me, Rick Lamb, you'll save $50 if you order. Remember, 7 feet long, 15 pounds, and a lifetime guarantee. Check them out. Travel in Corrals. Travel, the letter N, corrals.com.
Hi, this is Pat Pirelli, and you're listening to The Horse Show with Rick Lamb. Keep it natural.
And we certainly will. Thank you so much, Pat. My guest today is Rose Miller, author and horsewoman. She's written a book called The Horse That Wouldn't Trot, which exposes the travesty known as soaring of the Tennessee walking horses. Rose, paint a picture for the audience as to what soaring is.
I think in order to paint the picture, though, I have to explain how it happens.
Okay, how they get it.
How they get it.
Because it's so unnatural.
It's so unique and unnatural, right?
Unique is a kind word for it.
Yes, it is. Revolting, most people would say.
There you go. I like that.
But anyway, because they have these horses that are bred to pace, then they square them up, as they say, and they put a caustic chemical on their pastern area, and then they train them and ride them with chains. So what this does is it makes the horse squat because the front end hurts, and he throws his legs out because he's wearing these humongous big shoes, and depending on how they're stacked, as they're called, it makes him really, in fact, I've seen some horses almost hit their chin with their knees.
Yeah.
And horses don't do that. I mean, obviously that's unnatural. So then because the front end hurts so badly, that's what rocks them back on their back end, and sometimes their tail almost drags the ground and their hocks almost touch the ground.
Yeah, and they look like they're almost trying to climb a ladder or something.
Exactly.
It's when you first see it, you go, what in the world is going on here?
What is that?
Why would a horse move like that? I've never seen a horse, you don't see a horse do that in a pasture. And the sad part is not really that they're being pushed into an unnatural sort of a gait. It's more how it's being done.
That's right.
As I see it.
Right, because again, the soaring issue is they put the soaring chemicals on the horses on their pasterns. They wrap the pastern with saran wrap so that it cooks. Use DMSO, anything they can to make that area hurt. Then the horses wait for a couple days while they're steeping in their pain, and then they take them out, put the chains on, and then they ride them. And the soaring's worn off. It's like you have to be a scientist. You're not a trainer. You're a scientist and a chemical engineer to do this.
Without a heart, if I might add that.
Right. So then the trick is to get them soared enough so that they can train them and ride them and then show them, and they can pass inspection, because now after many years they do have to pass inspection. They can have no open bleeding wounds, and now they have a scar rule, which is tricking up and catching a lot of the trainers because it causes scars.
Yeah, and what Rose is referring to is the breed organization, the Tennessee Walking Horse Breeders and Exhibitors Association, very aware of this problem in the breed, and has come up with a zero tolerance policy. So we are not going to allow this. And they have people that go out and police them. And I think I'm not sure they call them designated qualified person.
Yeah, DQPs.
DQPs. So everybody knows they're not supposed to be doing it. Zero tolerance policy. If you get caught doing it, you can. There's sanctions. And it still is happening.
It still happens, right? So anyway, way back in the 80s when I saw this, they were get them deeper, they called them. They could use more soaring, they could get more squatting, they could get whatever. So, like I said, I didn't pay too much attention to it though, but I saw it. But this was the horse that got me into trouble with my breeding program, because the national champions that won the national championship every year stand at stud for big fees. Genetically they were bred that way. So when I take my little mare and breed it to this stallion hoping to get a big name horse, I got the pace as well as the name, which I didn't know what to do with.
Oh, gosh. Well, when this other lady that you mentioned said that you need to breed to my stallion, what happened as a result of that?
Well, something very wonderful. I did breed 2 mares to her stallion, and I got them, no sooner got them home in foal than she called me up and she said, Rose, I have found a stallion that you need to buy. You need to have your own stallion.
Oh.
It's like, oh, heavens no. I'm just starting in this. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm having mares. I'm having babies. I'm not a stallion, no.
Yeah.
But she was right, and I trusted her at this point, and she has turned out to be, she's still a great friend and mentor. She's been a mentor all my breeding life. Carol from Michigan. And so this stallion was by Sun's Delight. Now, if you know a little bit about the breeding of the walking horses, first was Midnight Sun, who everybody knows about. Midnight Sun, Mary Go Boy, and those horses walked. It was what happened later that got the problem. Well, Sun's Delight was a son of Midnight Sun, and he had some great breeding, and so he walked. And they soared him, but somehow he managed to survive the soaring and still walk, and genetically he was wonderful. And everybody realized the worth of his mares, but not too many people realized the worth of his stallion offspring. And so they gelded them, sold them, but the mares, even today, are in great demand. Well, I was able to get a son of him. And, oh gosh, he was hard to breed. Oh Lord, it's a wonder we didn't get killed. I write about it in my book.
Behaviorally, he was difficult to handle.
He was fine to ride. My daughter rode him.
Interesting.
I didn't like to ride him. He had a lot of fire, but he wasn't dangerous.
Yeah.
However, breeding was a different story. He had never been bred before. We didn't know what we were doing. It's a wonder we didn't get killed. But anyhow, eventually...
So you didn't just throw him out in the pasture.
No.
You were right in the middle of it,
Yeah.
huh?
I had a gentleman friend, big hefty guy, and he knew quite a bit about horses, but even that didn't save us. I held the mare out behind the barn, and he led the stallion out, and as soon as the stallion saw the mare out there, he just was walking on his hind legs practically, and nothing was going to stop him.
Yeah.
So he got on the mare sideways, and anything else he could figure. She decided to leave, so she left, ran out into the pasture. We got the stallion back in the barn, and then we figured out how to do it better, which was to put a bar across, lead him up to the bar, make him talk to the mare head first, then let him go around and do his thing. But he was always hard to breed. But he did start breeding horses for me that walked. So I knew I could do it, having the right genetic background.
So was your intent to develop recreational riding horses, or develop show horses that would do this more natural sort of a gait?
I was so new at it, I just wanted to raise horses and sell them to anybody who'd buy them.
Yeah.
But then our area got so busy with trucks buzzing down the road. We used to be able to ride on the road. We were out in the country, but then it started building up, and it wasn't safe to do that.
Yeah.
So we started getting a ring around the barn and deciding, well, I guess maybe we're going to have to show because it's not safe to trail ride.
Right.
And then we did that. We did the showing. We started out very easy, just with the pleasure type horses that didn't do much, that were you could do versatility with them, do trail class, that type of a thing.
And those horses still would gait correctly.
Exactly.
Correct. It just wasn't that
Show
exaggerated show gait. Still to come, more with Rose Miller, author of The Horse That Wouldn't Trot, and we're going to wrap up today with Chapter 10 of my book, Human to Horseman, and that chapter is all about the buddy problem. I'm Rick Lamb. This is The Horse Show, and we will be back. Stay with us. Hey everybody, Rick Lamb here. For me, Travel in Corrals makes the best portable corral system on the market, and here's why. First, the panels are easy to handle. They're 7 feet long and just 15 pounds. Anyone can set up a travel-in corral. 6 panels make a 13-foot round pen. 8 panels make an 18-foot round pen. Second reason I'm crazy about travel-in corrals is how these metal panels are made. They're notched and welded, and they hook together with a 4-foot steel rod. They're horse safe. thoroughly tested, and they come with a lifetime guarantee for the original owner. But hey, don't take my word for it. See for yourself. Watch an introductory video at travelincorrals.com. That's travel, the letter N, corrals.com. You'll get the backstory on the horse people behind these highly practical portable corral panels. And if you mention me, Rick Lamb, you'll save $50 if you order. Remember, 7 feet long, 15 pounds, and a lifetime guarantee. Check them out. Travel in Corrals. Travel, the letter N, corrals.com. Fact of the matter is, nailed-on metal horseshoes are a tradition, and a lot of horses simply don't need them. Hey everybody, Rick Lamb here. Here's what I suggest. If you like the idea of barefooting your horse, go ahead and try it. But also do this. Get yourself some good all-purpose hoof boots to protect your horse's bare feet when you ride. I recommend the Simple Boot from Cavallo. Simple boots are exactly what the name implies. They're uncomplicated, easy to use, lightweight, durable. When you put them on, they stay on. With Simple Boots on your horse, you can walk, trot, canter, jump, go through water, go through mud. Whatever you're doing, the Simple Boot stays on and your horse stays comfortable. Remember, there are different stresses on your horse's bare feet when you ride him. Hoof boots are an essential part of the barefooting protocol. See the Cavallo Simple Boot in action and learn how to choose the right size at simpleboot.com. You'll also see the 5 very attractive colors available, starting at just $99.95 with free shipping. The Simple Boot from Cavallo, simpleboot.com. If you're like me, you need a pretty good reason to sit in front of a TV set these days. Hi everybody, Rick Lamb here. RFD-TV is that reason. Finally, there's a network for people like you and me, people who care about the rural lifestyle, about livestock and tradition. RFD-TV brings you family-friendly programming that entertains and educates and never ever offends. Every week you see the icons of country music with Ralph Emery, Crook and Chase, and Marty Stewart. You get some of the top horsemen in the world like Clinton Anderson, Chris Cox, Craig Cameron, and the Pirellis. And you get farm news and special features. Oh yeah, you get me too. So join me and the millions of other RFD-TV viewers. Call your satellite or cable provider and ask for RFD-TV, rural America's most important network. It's TV we can all be proud of. To learn more, visit rfdtv.com or give them a call at 615-227-9292.
Thank you for listening to The Horse Show with Rick Lamb. If you have a question, request, or comment, we want to hear from you. Our fax number is area code 602-279-0980. Or if you would like to email us, the address is lambemail@aol.com. Now, back to Rick.
Thank you, Woodman. We're back, everybody, with my guest, horsewoman and author Rose Miller. She's written a book called The Horse That Wouldn't Trot, which is all about Tennessee walking horses and her experiences with them. Rose, tell me a little bit more about what's in the book.
The book's divided into 2. The first part is how I got started, how I had a stallion called Xanadu who's on the cover of the book. And he was the epitome of brains. That horse was so smart, he could figure out, he'd watch a trail class. We were National High Point Trail Class in 1988. And he would watch these horses going into the ring, and you could just hear him saying, just wait till it's my turn, wait till it's my turn.
Show you.
Can't wait. And he just would blow away everybody. He just was so good, because he thought. You know, it was a thinking horse.
Interesting.
And I talk to my horses when I train them. Like I'd say to him, let's go do the mailbox. Well, the mailbox, you know, was sitting there. You got to stop, open it. So, you know, it helps for the horse to know mailbox means stop and stand. So I did do that. But he just would see these obstacles, and he just knew how to do them. So he had brains, but he didn't have a really great gait. He was a little pacey. His overstride was nothing. We showed him, and he's a national versatility supreme champion. His picture hangs on the wall in Lewisburg, Tennessee, in the Tweeb office. But he worked hard. You know, we didn't, you know, knock down any great doors by what we did. He was a great Western horse, not too good English. But we jumped him. Now you had to, in order to get this Supreme Versatility Championship, you had to do something out of the ordinary, like jumping barrels, poles, reining, something that walkers don't generally do. And this was in the 80s. And now they do a lot more of it, but they didn't then.
So what was your special?
Jumping.
Jumping, okay.
Yeah. And I couldn't do it because of my back. but I got one of my daughter's friends who did. And there's a whole part in the book that tells all the mistakes we made jumping this horse, and then how we had to rectify it, but eventually how he pulled through and got his points and became a national champion.
I like stories where people share the mistakes they've made. The third book I wrote, which was mostly kind of autobiographical, it was autobiographical. A lot of it in there is about the things that I learned from, which were essentially mistakes that I made. And it's funny because Alan, our host here at this ranch, and I've talked about this at some length, it takes a big person, first of all, to admit that they made mistakes and be comfortable talking about it. But secondly, that's somebody who you know has refined their knowledge and has become better and better over time. You can't do that without making mistakes. You just can't do it.
You're right.
We talked about kind of the first part of the book. You focus in the second part of the book on a different horse.
Right.
Tell me about that
yes,
horse.
His name was Mr. Macho, and he was owned by Harlansdale Farm. And the reason that he didn't become a big lick horse was because he went to the yearling sale that they put on, and he stuck his foot through a board, and he cut his pastern area, so he would never be able to be sored. So God saved him.
Yeah, lucky day for that
for
horse.
me.
And so you came to have him.
Well, I came to have him, yes. He went to a trainer in Ohio named Sherry, and she became quite well known, showing wonderfully sound horses. And from Mr. Harlan, sent her a lot. Now in the 90s, the pleasure horse has really taken hold. And then the reason is they decided they could soar the pleasure horses. So, and then they would have another outlet for the horses and another way to make money and so on and so forth. So this was the scene that I hit, which is when I really got immersed in the soaring of the horses because I saw it firsthand. So with Mr. Macho, I was able to buy him. Sherry had taken him to the celebration, and I was trying to buy him all season, and she finally said, well, the other people backed out, you can have him. So I bought him. She took him to the celebration. He won the 2-year-old championship, and my name was mentioned, so that was great. So I changed his name to Praise Hallelujah because he was by Pride's Hallelujah. Oh. And with my love of the Lord and so forth, I wanted a horse that every time he won, I could give thanks to the Lord. So I figured
neat.
that would work. So he turned out to be almost the perfect horse. He didn't have the brains that my first horse, Xanadu, did, but he had a phenomenal gait, and it was all natural. Yeah. And we didn't tear him up, but we competed well. Yeah. And we eventually went amateur owned and trained. And so then I took dressage lessons to learn how to do the same thing soaring does, which is to get the horse to rock back on his back end and elevate his front. Yeah. And we did use a heavy shoe, which it's too heavy for the horse. I wouldn't do it anymore. But those were the divisions, the light shod and the heavy shod divisions. So he wore a heavy shoe, and because they work against the weight. Right. And then they got to soaring the pleasure horses, of course. So then they worked against the weight, and then they squatted the pleasure horses. But that's what I saw, and that was what broke my heart. And so. And another reason that I wanted to bring the issue of the soaring out. But he produced some phenomenally great show horses. And so they were pleasure horses. And so the second part of the book is about that issue, how I trained him to breed a big black barrel so I could collect his semen and ship it. And how wonderfully he always kept his mind. He was a great horse to breed. He wasn't like the first one that would breed a tractor. And he produced really good horses.
Now you're speaking in the past tense. Is he no longer with us?
No, he's here. He's actually in Arizona, but we're retired from showing.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he's 25 years old now, and he is out here in Arizona with us.
Well, yeah, and you live in this Longmeadow Ranch area?
We live in the Las Vegas Ranch area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, horsey heaven out here, as far as I can see.
Right. But that was as I'm writing his story and I'm seeing the soared pleasure horses, I'm seeing them tied up, groaning and moaning with my own eyes and not just reading about it. I realized that I can't do this anymore. And so did a lot of other people. And this was in 1998. I think that's the right year. And that's when those people got together and started the National Walking Horse Association. Basically, we wanted a place to show where we wouldn't have to see this and compete against it. And we did, and it worked out really well for many years, and it's still going. Sad thing is, they're still soaring pleasure horses. They're still soaring big lick horses. We couldn't save them. At least, we could enjoy our horses without competing against them.
Yeah, and not sort of endorsing it by just being
yes,
there.
and giving them the money and so forth.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell me what difference you're trying to make today.
Well, I'm kind of retired, and my culminating feat was writing this book, I think, because it came out in 2009. I started having the vision that I just wanted to expose it from a personal standpoint.
Yeah.
And Fosh, Friends of Sound Horse, they put on Sound Horse conferences. Yeah. And I missed the first one, but I went to the second two. And I wanted to go because I was finishing up my book, and the Pirellis were there at that one. And so was Dr. Miller. So I went to those conferences because I wanted to end my book. And I had written about all the issues of the soaring, and I wanted to know, okay, now how is it being made better? And so there are some things that are being made better, and with all the different testing is worse. And
do you think it's inevitable that this problem will go away, or do you think human nature being what it is, it's always going to be there?
That is really a tough question. One of our sayings of all we sound horse people, is maybe not in our lifetime. Yeah. But we hope.
Well, it's difficult sometimes to know what the right thing to do is in life. This, to me, is a very black and white issue. There is no ambiguity about it being wrong to soar a horse. I just can't imagine somebody doing that. But the year after you were there, I was a featured speaker at that event and kind of emceed it. And they had invited a bunch of the trainers that practice these.
That year.
Oh, you were there. Then you heard them. They didn't seem like evil people, but they had a mindset that this was okay. And what I first noted in talking to people in the past that were trainers of the Big Lick and so forth, is they didn't see it in terms of right and wrong. They saw it in terms of what it takes to win. And if you said, well, why do you do that? Their response would be, well, that's what you have to do to win. So the values are kind of different from the very beginning, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. So I think some of them really are trying to do better, but there'll always be those that won't. And
they're in a community. They surround themselves with people of like mind.
Right.
Just like those of us who are part of Fosh and believe in that. We kind of reinforce our views by being around people that share those views. And I think the same thing happens with them. And even if they are kind of, intellectually they get it and they're moving maybe towards a little bit different way, I think they go back into that environment where it's always been done that way. I guess I'm not as optimistic as you are.
I know. Well, with some of the arrests, you know about some of the arrests of the big trainers and the undercover tapes that are being made. The more people out in the real horse world that know it, then that's what will help. But I don't know either.
Well, I applaud you for fighting the good fight. So how could people get a hold of your book, The Horse That Wouldn't Trot?
It's available on Amazon, of course, and it's also available from my website if you want an autographed copy. And I have my prices down, decent off the website. So that the book has gotten, it's really, because it's a self-published book, it hasn't hit the major newsstands, but it's doing very well for that fact. It's also available on Kindle. Yeah. And I do use part of my proceeds to support both NY and Fosh. So, I try to do a little bit.
Yeah. Well, how did you become a writer? Was that always something you enjoyed doing?
Well, that's also an interesting story. I never went to college and got married, very soon. I did go to a little bit of chiropractic college with my husband, but I don't have a degree or anything. So my daughter, my oldest daughter, she was a AAA personality. She just did everything. And she said, Mom, just because you didn't go to college, that's fine. She says, you have life stories. She says, I'll write you a resume. It'll be a life resume. Unfortunately, Sharon was battling inflammatory breast cancer and subsequently passed away before we got this written. So one evening, I'm reading a dog story and a horse book, both of them, first the dog story and then a horse book. And I hear this voice in my head, and it says, Mom, you should write a book. And so I thought, well, maybe I never wrote. I mean, I'm not a writer. And so I just started writing. And what I did was this is the James Harriet part. I just started writing. It's just about all my life, all jumbled up. Horses, dogs, cats, cows,
Right.
everything all mixed up.
Right.
Sent it to an editor. She said, Rose, I think we have to figure out who's your audience here.
Yeah, yeah.
So we pulled out all the horse stories, and that became The Horse That Wouldn't Trot.
All right.
Yeah. And so that's how I started writing, and the stories just flowed. It was just almost like,
It's a little cathartic when you write
Yeah.
about your life, isn't
Yeah,
it?
right.
Not only are you hopefully sharing some of your mistakes so people don't make the same mistakes, but I don't know, talking about them, sometimes you can kind of release things that maybe had been bugging you, or
This is true.
any number of things.
Yeah, this is true.
And that website is?
Yes, rosemiller.net.
rosemiller.net. Can't get much easier than that. Rose, will you come back another time and
Yes,
talk
I would
with
love
mules
to. Oh, I
about
would love
mules
to.
with us?
Thank you so much.
You bet.